first little grindhouse purgatory of the new year here. And if you notice, I am wearing a brand new hat, courtesy of my daughter's friend slash Serena out in Brooklyn, who was one of my pseudo daughters that I brought to Wasteland and put on a couple of my DVDs, well actually one of my DVDs, the Bombshells of the Atomic Age. But yeah, I can't, you know, no matter where I wind up, I left my heart in New York City and probably a few gallons of bodily fluids in various grindhouses too. But anyway, today we're going to talk about my relationship with marijuana. And, you know, we should light one up for this thing. Now, you might be asking yourself, what the hell does marijuana have to do with grindhouse movies? Well, shit, man. You'd have to be stoned to see some of these fucking things. I mean, you know, it goes without saying. Could you sit through a kung fu double feature without being stoned? Or a midnight movie, which we will get into shortly. It does a body good, is what it does. But you have to remember the era that I grew up in. This shit was taboo. This shit was so fucking illegal. This shit was like, they equated it to heroin because the general premise was, as my dog wanders in here to be loved, that the minute you started smoking marijuana, within weeks you'd be shooting heroin into your veins. Which was completely fucking bullshit. We all know that. But, you know, that's the era I grew up in. So, of course, being that my old man was a pharmacist and friends with all the fucking cops in town, you know, it was like, you weren't going to do this. It was, like I said, constantly drummed into your head that, you know, marijuana was going to lead you down the road to destruction. Well, when I got in college, I was getting a little fucking curious about all this shit. So I asked a friend of mine to get me a nickel, $5 worth. Now, back then, $5 worth would have filled this fucking thing up. This is about the size of a 35 millimeter film container. Well, I got a full 35 millimeter film container full of green stuff with stems and seeds in it. Now, being a novice, I didn't really know what to expect. So I rolled one up first night, smoked it, and absolutely nothing fucking happened except me stinking out the room. Alright, so I tried again the second night. Again, stunk out the fucking room. Now I'm starting to think, maybe all this shit's in someone's fucking mind. Maybe it's fucking bullshit. I don't know. Alright, third time's the charm. Smoked my third joint on the third night, and all of a sudden, okay, I really like this feeling. And that was the thing, because, you know, everybody today is used to the shit where you take, you know, 2 fucking puffs like I just did, and you're good to go. Back then, it had a build up in your system, which was called getting ahead. Hence, they called, you know, people potheads. So I'm a proud pothead. But, you know, that got me, you know, into the whole thing, and I wanted more. Now, friend does you a favor, you know, he'll do me one more favor, but that's about it. So you got to find somebody else. So at that time, you know, I always subscribe to the Dr. Hunter S. Thompson theory that if you're going to abuse something, you may as well abuse it in quantity. Plus you save money that way. So I started buying ounces. Well, I was buying them from a guy I was going to school with, and I was looking at this thing going, you know something, there's something shaky about this. You know, not just the seeds and the fucking stems, there's just something shaky about the whole deal. So I went out and bought myself one of those 59-cent little postage scales with the little hook on the end, little alligator clip that you could, you know, double for a roach clip, but you could clip it on and weigh your letter and see what it was. Well, I go to meet with this guy to get, you know, my ounce, and I pull out the fucking scale, and I clip the scale to the bag, and guess what? It ain't a fucking ounce. I said, now I fucking got you because you've been doing this to me. Oh, no. I said, no. I got a fucking scale. We're looking at the damn thing. It's not an ounce. It's not even 3/4 of an ounce. It's about a half ounce. Well, fuck you. I'm not going to sell to you anymore. I said, well, good. I spread the word. He didn't sell to anybody. Matter of fact, he left the fucking school. So, armed with this scale, you know, we always managed to, you know, get the right fucking count. And the thing was, all you were getting back then was Mexican weed full of stems and seeds and sometimes, you know, little things thrown in that jack the weight up a little bit. So, that was like, you would get like a fucking 4-finger ounce for 20, 25 bucks. All right, everything was cool. They never had a problem finding it because of where I lived. It was all over the place. But then somebody came in with something different. Said it was Colombian gold. It was brown weed with blonde highlights. And we're like, okay, it's 50 bucks an ounce though. I'm like, motherfucker, 50, that's twice the price of the other shit. What the hell? Well, okay, once you got your hands on this stuff, it was a whole different ball game because you'd smoke this shit and the resin would leak out the end of it and be on your lips and your tongue and shit. And if that happened, you knew you were going to have a really, really good fucking night. So yeah, we're dialed into this shit now. This stuff's good, but 50 bucks a fucking ounce. A lot of money. So I hatched a scheme that, you could buy, if you knew somebody, you could probably buy a quarter pound of this shit for, I don't know, $150, I think it was. And if you had 3 friends that were not connected, sell your 3 friends, 3 ounces, and you got enough, you're good to go. So played that game for a while back in the 70s, but then it got stupid because people can't keep their mouths shut. So like I said, I never had a problem finding it. It always came to me. And the backstory is, I saw some really cool movies when I was really, really fucked up. And the thing is, someone invented something called the Midnight Movie. Now, this wasn't on 42nd Street. This was at a theater called the Elgin. It was away from 42nd Street. I do this off the top of my head, and sometimes I forget shit, and I don't know the exact address, so bear with me, because I'm not going to sit in front of you people and read a script and look like an asshole. I look like sometimes I look like an asshole it is, but that's beside the point. But anyway, there was a movie floating around that they didn't know what the fuck to do with, and that was El Topo. So this movie theater, the Elgin, decided, why not try to, because, anybody who's seen El Topo, knows what it is. It's a really weird, twisted, trippy fucking movie. So they decided, why not run this and try it at a midnight screening? So the Elgin ran it at midnight, and back then you could actually smoke in theaters, and about, you got like, I don't know how many seats there was in the place, but let's just estimate you got 400 potheads firing up at the stroke of midnight. Who's to tell them they can't do it? So that was the birth of the Midnight Movie. Now, I think, if I remember right, and I could be wrong, I think John Lennon found this movie and took an interest in it for some reason and wanted to get it in general release, and I think it fucking crashed and burned because, let's face it, it's El Topo. Today it would have flew with all the weirdness going on, but back then it was a little bit too fucking weird. So then it was like, okay, we did good with this. What else would work at midnight? Oh, you're smoking fucking weed, Reefer Madness. So they would run Reefer Madness. Then the other one they dug up was a film that was actually banned called Freaks. It was Todd Browning's second film after Dracula, and basically it ruined his career because it was, it used actual circus freaks, and those of us into midget ploitation, so to speak, would realize that's Angelo Rosito was in that film. There's a lot of other people, Johnny Eck. It was a strange film. Tailor-made for, this late 60s, early 70s midnight crowd. And sometimes, to fill the 2-hour slot, they would basically pair Freaks and Reefer Madness and throw in some trailers and things like that. So it became an experience. So, then, okay, you know what else would make a great midnight movie? Night of the Living Dead, because right on it. And they were floating around, Night of the Living Dead was always flipped up on a marquee on 42nd Street on the bottom of a double or triple bill since 1968. So that became a midnight movie, especially around Halloween. Then, of course, the one that basically, became the staple of midnight movies, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which it ran at the Elgin. Then it transcended. It sort of made the rounds, and it was in other theaters in New York, like the Waverly, the 8th Street Playhouse. It would be every Friday and Saturday night. They would run these things. And it became, everybody knows the whole history of them. I don't have to go into detail with that. People would show up in costume and all that other stuff. And the weird part was, and this is like going back to seeing movies when you're stoned, I went with a buddy of mine to see horrible double feature Slithers and Laser Blast, and I was completely baked. And we took my van. Well, in my van was $800 worth of fucking winter coats that I was supposed to deliver next day. All right, so we go in, we sit through this thing, and you can sit through it when you're stoned, and you see it today. I don't know, I've seen Slithers, it's okay, whatever, but oh my God, what the fuck is this horrible shit? So we're walking outside, and all of a sudden, it was close to like 11 o'clock when we left, and the Rocky Horror Picture Show people were lining up, and ABC Eyewitness News was there. And we're like, oh, fuck this. I don't want to be seen. So we get to my van, all of a sudden, I just go to put my key in the lock, and the door just opens, and I'm like, motherfucker, I got robbed. And my buddy's laughing. I'm like, no, cocksucker, I got robbed. Let's go call the cops. There was never any resolution, and I had taken this stuff on consignment, so I was out $800. So basically, it cost me $800 to see Slithers and Laser Blast. And as bad as that was, I got stoned and went to see The Devil and Miss Jones in Deep Throat at a place, and I drove there, and of course I fired up on the way over, and that cost me $55 to see. $5 to get in, and $5 for the ticket for parking too close to a fire hydrant, which I didn't notice in my slightly baked state. So now we're back to the midnight movies, and other people were trying stuff. The only thing, it was just weird that other theaters would try this stuff. The most successful one I went to was this one, and it wasn't just like it was like a midnight show. It was all kinds of weird shit. Star Trek bloopers, TV bloopers, Little Rascals shorts. And this was the Capitol Theater in Passaic. The very same Capitol Theater that had rock concerts sometimes on the weekends, a couple times a month. Showed porn during the day, then had these weird little midnight shows, on the off weekends. So we go to see this thing, and it was like, I think it was a Star Trek bloopers. There was something else involved. I mean, it might have been a Three Stooges thing, Little Rascals thing. I mean, just kept throwing out these weird little fucking shorts and stuff. So we sent, if you read my book, you know this guy, I talk about Gasoline, who looks like the Checker Demon from S. Clay Wilson, Zap Comics and things like that. Well, we sent him up to get something for us to drink. So, go back watching the movie. All of a sudden, I'm like, where the fuck is Gas? All of a sudden, he comes walking down the aisle with 2 cases of beer. And I'm like, how the fuck did you do this? And he goes, well, the guy said their soda machine was broken. He goes, you can just run across the street and get something. And he goes, nobody said I couldn't bring this in, so I did. So now we had beer, now we had weed. So we're watching this stuff. And this thing didn't end till maybe 3 o'clock in the morning. And the last thing they showed was some short with this guy, Captain Carswell, hero of the 7 seas, and this fucker's on a boat, and you'd see stock footage of an octopus. The guy would strip down to his trunks, dive in, battle a fake octopus, come back up. Next to it was a shark, this and that and the other thing. Okay, it ends, house lights don't go on, and in the dark you hear somebody go, what a jerk off. Alright, so the lights go on, I can't fucking move. I've been sitting in this position for 3 fucking hours. So they basically had to almost carry me out, and I'm trying to get feeling back into my legs by slapping them and shit. But yeah, that was another midnight one. The other ones they would try, well, somebody did Dawn of the Dead, the long version, once, which was cool, because I had never seen, the real long version, but it only worked once. Another one was that Australian film, The Cars That Ate People, and that movie really sucked a huge cock, because no cars actually ate people, and the whole poster was misleading as shit, and people got mad. Then they were doing the Charles Band deal, The Best of Sex and Violence, which was nothing but trailers, and they ran that, I think it was at some kind of twin theater, and they actually frisked us going in. And I had a bottle on me, and I'm like, dude, I'm drinking this. Leave me the fuck alone. So that was pretty bad. Then the other ones, I'm trying to think, okay, Basket Case wound up at the Waverly, and on its 100th showing, they gave out free, I guess they were Big Macs. Right? Big Macs, whatever McDonald's crap they serve. So, yeah, that ran for a long time. And the other thing was with the 8th Street Playhouse was they would run, aside from the Rocky Horror on Friday and Saturday, they would run a different movie midnight every night of the week. And one thing they ran was something I had never seen, which was the 9th Configuration, which basically blew me the fuck away. I drank like a 6-pack of Heineken going in there, and you know what beer makes you do, and I would not get up to piss. I held it for as long as that movie was, because this thing just totally mesmerized me, and I will get into that at a later date. But that was another one that was cool. they tried different things, like they tried these concert movies, like Hendrix at Rainbow Bridge and Led Zeppelin, but I wasn't really, I'm into listening to music, not actually seeing it on a screen, so I would be half shit-faced by then and usually nod out to the horror of my friends and people around me, because I would start snoring loudly and just fall back to sleep if they woke me up. So that would happen. And one time they ran Apocalypse Now at a midnight show, which was really bad because that's a long-ass fucking movie, and I think I nodded through that one too. But the one that really, really fucked things up and actually had the theater closed after it was somebody picked up this horrible thing that was supposed to air on TV and was called Mr. Mike's Mondo Video. And this was at Cinema 46 in Jersey, a freestanding theater that is now a Staples, because I think it became a Staples because of this. Because, okay, I was married at the time, and me and my wife were big Saturday Night Live fans, and there was a lot of Saturday Night Live people in there. But this just got progressively fucking worse and worse and worse. And Sid Vicious came on and sang My Way, then something else happened. Next thing you know, a fucking bottle hits the screen. Then more bottles, then other shit, then all kinds of debris, then a fucking seat gets thrown, and I'm like, let's go, we're at the exit doors. It was a full-scale fucking riot broke out. Theater closed after that, and like I said, became a Staples. Now, I don't know if there's any more midnight movies running, because I'm no longer in New York, but I think because of the way things are today, and just the completely, vicious nature of fucking people and stupidity that people do today, I don't know if a midnight show would even work anymore. But, at least a bunch of us, probably some of you guys watching this got to see them at their peak. So that would wrap up this episode about pot and segueing to midnight movies. So until next time, stay sick and we'll see you then.